My wife got promoted 3 times in 6 months. I was proud until I found her performance reviews on her laptop. 3 promotions in 6 months. Junior analyst to senior manager to division lead. At this rate, Talia would be CEO by Arbor Day. I celebrated each advancement with champagne toasts and proud social media posts, watching my wife climb the corporate ladder with what I believed was pure merit. "Another promotion?" I asked when she announced the 3rd one, trying to keep the surprise out of my voice. We sat in our kitchen, morning coffee growing cold between us. "Victor says I have exceptional potential," Talia replied, not meeting my eyes. She scrolled through her phone, already distracted. "The division lead position comes with a 30% raise. Victor Rendell, her boss. 44 years old, married to Helena, a socialite who organized charity galas and spoke 3 languages. I'd met him at company mixers, the kind of man who wore expensive suits and treated handshakes like business transactions. That's incredible, I said, meaning it. Talia had worked hard her entire career. She deserved recognition. But 6 months later, sitting in my home office at midnight, staring at her laptop screen, I realized merit had nothing to do with it. The folder was labeled Performance Reviews. I'd opened it looking for tax documents, something mundane and necessary. Instead, I found hotel receipts from the Carlisle downtown, photographs in conference rooms after hours, calendar invitations marked strategy session that scheduled nothing strategic. Victor Rendell appeared in every frame. I leaned back in my chair, the laptop's blue light casting shadows across the room. The receipts told a story I didn't want to read. Suites at $400 per night, room service champagne, spa treatments billed to professional development. Each receipt had timestamps. I cross-referenced them with Talia's calendar, the one she shared with me so I'd know when she'd be working late. Every client dinner matched a hotel charge. Every strategy meeting corresponded to a suite reservation. "Soren?" Talia's voice came from the doorway. I minimized the window, turned to face her. She stood in her bathrobe, hair tousled from sleep. "What are you doing up so late?" "Couldn't sleep," I said. "Just catching up on some work." She nodded, already turning away. "Don't stay up too long. We have that thing tomorrow." "The thing?" "Right, the company Christmas party, where I'd smile and make small talk with Victor Rendell while knowing exactly what kind of performance reviews he'd been conducting with my wife. After she went back to bed, I reopened the folder. More photographs. Talia and Victor in what looked like a hotel bar, his hand on her thigh. Another image showed them in an elevator, standing closer than colleagues should. The metadata revealed dates spanning the entire 6 months of her rapid advancement. I spent the rest of the night building a timeline. Every promotion aligned with increased hotel visits. Every raise corresponded to longer business trips that I now realized were weekend getaways. The pattern was so obvious I felt stupid for missing it. My phone buzzed. A text from my brother Drew, who worked security at Talia's company. "You awake? Need to talk." I called him immediately. Drew picked up on the first ring. "I've been watching something," he said without preamble. Victor's car in the garage after hours, Talia's keycard accessing empty floors. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. "What did you find?" "Elevator footage, conference room logs. They've been meeting after everyone goes home for months." I copied the security files. I closed my eyes. "How long have you known?" "Suspected for weeks. Confirmed tonight when I saw your light on and figured you'd found something too." Drew had always been protective. 2 years younger, but twice as street smart, he'd taken the security job partly to keep an eye on things. Now I understood why he'd been asking so many questions about Talia's work schedule. "What do you want to do about it?" he asked. I looked at the laptop screen, at the evidence of my wife's affair spread across folders and files. The smart thing would be to confront her directly, demand explanations, file for divorce through proper channels. But Victor Rendell had been playing games with people's lives. He'd used his position to manipulate my wife, probably others too. A simple divorce wouldn't touch him. "I need to think," I told Drew. "Take your time. But Soren, whatever you decide, I'm with you." After hanging up, I opened a new document and began organizing the evidence. Hotel receipts, photographs, calendar entries, security footage timestamps. By dawn, I had a comprehensive file that painted a picture of systematic manipulation and corporate misconduct. Talia emerged from the bedroom at 7, already dressed for work. She moved through our morning routine like nothing had changed. Coffee, toast, quick kiss goodbye. "See you at the party tonight," she said, grabbing her keys. "Wouldn't miss it," I replied. She paused at the door, something flickering across her expression. For a moment, I thought she might confess, might save us both the theater of pretending everything was normal. Instead, she smiled. Wear the blue tie. It brings out your eyes. After she left, I sat at the kitchen table and planned my next move. The Christmas party would be perfect, public enough to ensure witnesses, formal enough to maintain appearances. I had something special in mind for Victor's wife, Helena. I spent the day preparing. First, I visited an electronics store and purchased a USB drive. $8 for what would become the most expensive gift Helena Rendell ever received. Next, I organized the evidence into a comprehensive presentation. Hotel receipts arranged chronologically, photographs with timestamps, security footage stills showing Talia and Victor entering empty conference rooms, calendar screenshots proving the systematic nature of their meetings. I included a simple note. Your husband has been conducting performance reviews with my wife. These are the results. The USB drive went into a small gift box, wrapped in snowflake paper I bought at the drugstore. Elegant, festive, completely innocent looking. That evening, I dressed carefully. Blue tie, as requested. Dark suit that made me look professional, trustworthy. The kind of man who wouldn't cause a scene at a corporate Christmas party. Talia emerged from our bedroom looking stunning. Red dress, perfect makeup, the confidence of someone who believed her secrets were safe. You look beautiful, I said, and meant it. Whatever she'd done, whatever was about to happen, she was still the woman I'd married. Thank you. She kissed my cheek, careful not to smudge her lipstick. Ready to charm my coworkers? Always. The party was held at the Riverside Hotel, the same chain where Talia and Victor had conducted their performance reviews. The irony wasn't lost on me. We walked into the ballroom together, her hand on my arm, playing the role of devoted couple one last time. Victor spotted us immediately. He approached with a wide smile, extending his hand for a shake that lasted too long. Soren, great to see you, and Talia, you look absolutely radiant. His eyes lingered on her in a way that would have seemed innocent yesterday. Tonight, knowing what I knew, it felt like a slap. Victor, I said, matching his smile. Where's Helena? I have something for her. Helena Rendell stood near the bar, elegant in a black cocktail dress, speaking with two other wives I recognized from previous company events. She had the kind of poise that came from years of corporate social functions, the ability to make small talk seem meaningful. I approached with the wrapped USB drive in my jacket pocket. Helena, you look lovely tonight. She turned, offering a practiced smile. Soren, how nice to see you. Talia tells me you're doing wonderful work in cybersecurity. I try to stay busy. Speaking of which, I have something for you. I pulled out the small wrapped box. A little something for the new year. You'll want to open this in private. Her eyebrows raised slightly. How thoughtful. What's the occasion? Just seemed like the right time to share some information I thought you'd find interesting. Helena accepted the gift with curious grace, tucking it into her purse. Well, thank you. I'll be sure to open it when I get home. Perfect, I said. I think you'll find it very illuminating. I rejoined Talia, who was chatting with her colleagues near the appetizer table. She looked relaxed, happy even, surrounded by people who praised her rapid advancement. Several coworkers mentioned how impressed they were with her progress, how she must be incredibly dedicated to achieve so much so quickly. She certainly puts in the hours, I agreed, watching Victor from across the room. He was holding court with the senior executives, gesturing animatedly about quarterly projections. Talia's assistant, Mira, appeared at my elbow. She was young, maybe 27, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Mr. Merrick, could I speak with you privately for a moment? We stepped onto the hotel's outdoor terrace. The December air was cold enough to discourage other guests from joining us. I know what you're doing, Mira said without preamble. I'm not sure what you mean. The gift for Mrs. Rendell. I've been watching Victor for 18 months. I know about the hotels, the after-hours meetings, the way he promises promotions for continued excellence. I kept records because I recognized what was happening. I studied her face. Why are you telling me this? Because someone needs to stop him. Talia isn't the first. There was another woman last year. She transferred departments when things got complicated. And there's a new intern he's been paying special attention to. Mira pulled out her phone, showed me a series of screenshots. Internal emails where Victor scheduled private meetings with female employees, calendar invitations that used coded language, expense reports for dinners, and hotel stays that didn't correspond to any legitimate business activity. I've been documenting everything, she said, but I needed someone with standing to act on it, someone who couldn't be dismissed as a disgruntled employee. You're giving this to me? I'm giving this to Helena, through you. She deserves to know what her husband really does at work. Back inside, the party continued. Talia was laughing at something Victor said, her hand briefly touching his arm. The gesture looked casual, friendly, but I now understood the subtext. I watched them together, noting the subtle signs I'd missed before. The way Victor's eyes followed her movements. How Talia positioned herself within his line of sight. The practiced nature of their interactions, like actors who'd rehearsed these scenes. "Everything okay?" Drew appeared beside me. He'd arrived late, still wearing his security uniform under a hastily donned sport coat. "Just observing," I said. "Learning things I wish I didn't know." "Helena got your present?" "She did. Should make for an interesting evening at the Rendell household." Drew nodded toward Victor. Security cameras caught him accessing personnel files he shouldn't have been looking at. Employee photos, personal information, home addresses. I documented it all. "Building a pattern?" "Building a case. This goes beyond cheating, Soren. He's been using his position to target vulnerable employees. What happened with Talia is part of something bigger." The party wound down around 10. Talia and I rode home in comfortable silence, her head resting against my shoulder in the taxi. She seemed content, unaware that her world was about to change. "Nice evening," she said as we entered our apartment. "Very productive," I agreed. She went to bed first. I stayed up, waiting. At 11:47 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello?" "What did you do?" Helena's voice was shaking. "I shared some information I thought you should have." "These photos, these receipts, how long have you known?" "I found out yesterday." "I'm sorry, Helena. You deserved to know." A long pause. I could hear her breathing, could imagine her sitting in her study, staring at the evidence of her husband's betrayal. "There's money missing from our accounts," she said finally. "Personal charges on corporate cards. This isn't just an affair." "No, it's not. There are others who can help you understand the full scope. Mira, Talia's assistant. She's been documenting Victor's behavior for months. I need to think. God, how do I even begin to process this? Take your time. But Helena, you're not alone in this." After she hung up, I sat in my dark living room and waited for the next phase to begin. In the bedroom, Talia slept peacefully, unaware that her performance reviews were about to receive some external evaluation. My phone buzzed with a text from Drew. "Security review scheduled for Monday. Victor's clearance is under investigation." I smiled in the darkness. Victor Rendell held security clearance for government defense contracts. The affair wasn't just a personal failing, it was a professional liability that would trigger mandatory background reinvestigation. By morning, the first domino would fall. By New Year's, both Victor and Talia would understand the true cost of their performance reviews. Monday morning arrived with the subtlety of a corporate audit. I was in my home office, ostensibly working on a cybersecurity consultation, when Talia's phone started ringing. She answered on the third ring, her voice still thick with sleep. "Hello?" I couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but I watched her expression change from confusion to concern to barely controlled panic. "What do you mean, suspended? On what grounds?" She was sitting up now, fully awake. "I'll be there in an hour." After she hung up, Talia rushed through our apartment like someone trying to outrun bad news. Shower, coffee, professional attire assembled with shaking hands. "Everything okay?" I asked, maintaining the pretense of concerned husband. "Some kind of investigation at work. Victor's been suspended pending review. They want to interview everyone in the department." "That sounds serious. What kind of investigation?" "I don't know. Something about improper conduct, financial irregularities. It doesn't make sense." She left without breakfast, her phone already pressed to her ear as she called a taxi. Through the window, I watched her pace on the sidewalk while waiting for her ride, gesturing frantically as she spoke to someone. An hour later, Drew called. "It started," he said. "Helena filed for divorce this morning, cited the evidence you provided. Her attorney immediately contacted the company's legal department and the government security office." "How bad is it for Victor?" "Career ending. His security clearance is suspended pending investigation. The defense contracts he manages are being reassigned. 3 different agencies want to review his access to classified materials." I leaned back in my chair, processing the implications. Victor's entire professional identity was built on his clearance and government connections. Without those, he was just another middle-aged executive with a history of workplace misconduct. "What about Talia?" "HR is interviewing everyone who received promotions or raises under Victor's authority. They're looking for patterns of favoritism, quid pro quo arrangements. Mira's been very helpful in providing context." The phone buzzed with an incoming call. "Talia." "I have to go," I told Drew. "Soren?" Talia's voice was tight with stress. "Can you come pick me up? My car won't start, and I need to get to a meeting with HR. Of course. Where are you? Coffee shop on 5th Street, the one near the office. I found her sitting in the back corner of the cafe, staring into a cup of untouched coffee. She looked smaller somehow, like the confidence that had carried her through 6 months of rapid advancement had suddenly evaporated. Thanks for coming, she said, sliding into my passenger seat. This whole thing is insane. They're treating Victor like some kind of criminal. What exactly are they investigating? Financial improprieties, abuse of authority, inappropriate relationships with subordinates. It's like they're trying to destroy him. I drove toward her office building, choosing my words carefully. Do you think there's any truth to the allegations? She was quiet for several blocks. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. Victor's always been attentive to his female employees. I thought it was just his management style. Attentive how? Extra meetings, professional development opportunities, mentorship. I assumed I was getting promoted because I was good at my job. We stopped at a red light. I turned to look at her directly. Were you good at your job, Talia? Something in my tone must have alerted her. She studied my face, searching for subtext. What kind of question is that? An honest one. 3 promotions in 6 months is unusual. People are going to ask questions about how that happened. The light changed. I drove the remaining blocks in silence while Talia stared out the window. When I pulled up to her building, she didn't immediately get out. Soren, if things get complicated, if the investigation expands, I might need your support. As my husband. What kind of support? Character witness, someone to vouch for my integrity, my work ethic, someone to confirm that my relationship with Victor was purely professional. I met her eyes. Was it purely professional? She held my gaze for a long moment, then looked away. Of course it was. What else would it be? After she went inside, I drove home and waited. The rest of the day unfolded like a carefully orchestrated collapse. Drew sent periodic updates via text. Board meeting called for emergency session. 3 executives submitted resignations. Stock price down 8%. Victor escorted from building by security. That evening, Talia came home looking like she'd aged 5 years in 8 hours. She poured herself a large glass of wine and sat at our kitchen table without speaking. How did it go? I asked. They're reviewing every decision Victor made regarding personnel. Every promotion, every raise, every assignment. They want documentation for everything. That seems thorough. They asked about my relationship with him, whether we'd ever socialized outside of work, whether he'd ever made inappropriate comments or requests. What did you tell them? She drained half her wine glass before answering. The truth, that Victor was my supervisor, nothing more. I nodded, watching her face. I'm sure they appreciated your honesty. There's more, she said. They're conducting a financial audit, looking for irregularities in expense accounts, corporate credit card usage, travel reimbursements. Apparently, there are questions about unauthorized charges. What kind of charges? Hotels, restaurants, entertainment expenses that don't correspond to legitimate business activities. Talia finished her wine and poured another glass. Her hands were shaking slightly. Soren, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Okay. Did you have anything to do with this investigation? I considered my answer carefully. What makes you think I would? Helena Rendell called me today. She said someone had provided her with information about Victor's conduct, someone who cared about the truth. That was thoughtful of them. She's filing for divorce, citing adultery and financial misconduct. Her attorney has evidence, photographs, receipts, documentation of affairs. Talia was watching my face intently, looking for any sign of recognition or guilt. Affairs, plural? I asked. Apparently Victor has a pattern. Multiple employees over several years. Helena's attorney is encouraging other wives to come forward. That must be devastating for everyone involved. Soren. Her voice was sharp now. Stop playing games. Did you give Helena information about Victor? I met her eyes directly. I gave Helena information about you. The wine glass slipped from Talia's hand, shattering against the kitchen floor. Red wine spread across the white tiles like evidence of some small violence. What did you say? I said I gave Helena information about you, about your performance reviews with Victor, about the hotels, the after-hours meetings, the 6 months of professional development that had nothing to do with developing professional skills. She stared at me, her face cycling through expressions, shock, denial, anger, fear. You went through my laptop. I was looking for tax documents. I found something much more interesting. Talia stepped carefully around the broken glass, moving to the counter where she gripped the edge with white knuckles. You had no right. I had every right. I'm your husband, or was anyway, before you decided to expand your job description. It wasn't like that. Then tell me what it was like. Explain how 3 promotions in 6 months happened through merit alone. Help me understand why your calendar was full of strategy sessions that involved hotel suites and room service champagne. She was crying now, tears cutting tracks through her makeup. Victor said I had potential. He said I needed additional training, private mentoring to advance in the company. And you believed him? I wanted to believe him. The promotions were real, Soren. The raises were real. I was good at my job. You were good at something. I'm not sure it was your job. The cruelty in my voice surprised both of us. Talia flinched like I'd struck her. How long have you known? Since Saturday night. I spent Sunday organizing the evidence and Monday watching your world fall apart. You destroyed Victor's career, his marriage, his entire life. I shared information. Helena made her own choices about what to do with it. Talia sank into a chair, her professional composure finally cracking completely. What happens now? Now you deal with the consequences. HR will continue their investigation. The financial audit will reveal the embezzlement. Yes, I know about the corporate credit cards and the personal charges. Your promotions will be reviewed and likely revoked. Your colleagues will whisper about how you really advanced so quickly. And us? What happens to us? I looked at my wife, really looked at her, for what felt like the first time in months. She was still beautiful, still the woman I'd married, but something fundamental had changed. Trust, once broken, leaves sharp edges that cut both ways. I don't know, I said honestly. I don't know if there's an us anymore. Over the next 3 days, the corporate collapse accelerated. Victor's suspension became termination. The financial audit revealed $127,000 in unauthorized charges, some routed through accounts Talia controlled. What had started as an affair investigation became a criminal referral. Drew kept me updated through a steady stream of calls and texts. The security footage he'd copied became crucial evidence in establishing the timeline of Victor's misconduct. Mira was promoted to interim department head, her documentation of Victor's behavior earning her recognition as a whistleblower rather than just an assistant. Helena Rendell hired the best divorce attorney in the city. Her settlement demands included full disclosure of Victor's financial misconduct and a comprehensive audit of their joint assets. She also started a consulting firm specializing in corporate governance and workplace harassment prevention. Her first hire was Mira. Talia's situation deteriorated daily. Her promotions were officially revoked, her access to sensitive projects terminated. HR's investigation expanded to include other employees who'd received favorable treatment from Victor, but Talia's case was the most documented and egregious. On Thursday evening, she came home with a cardboard box containing her personal items from the office. They let me resign, she said, setting the box on our kitchen table. Alternative was termination for cause. What will you do now? Look for another job, I suppose, though I'm not sure who'll hire me after this. References might be challenging, she laughed bitterly. Victor's unemployed and facing criminal charges. My direct supervisor is Mira, who apparently has been documenting my every move for months, and HR has a file full of evidence about my performance reviews. You could try a different industry. With what skills? Apparently everything I thought I'd accomplished was really just something else. That night, I lay awake listening to Talia cry in the bathroom. The sound was muffled by the closed door, but grief has a way of traveling through walls. I felt no satisfaction in her pain, no triumph in her downfall, just the hollow ache of a marriage that had died from 1,000 small betrayals. Friday brought news that Victor had been arrested. Financial fraud, abuse of authority, violation of security protocols. The charges carried potential prison time and guaranteed the end of his career in defense contracting. He called me, Talia said when she heard the news. From jail. He wanted me to lie for him, to say the hotel charges were for legitimate business meetings. What did you tell him? I hung up. I'm not going to prison to protect him. Smart choice. Is it? Because I'm starting to think I don't have any good choices left. She was right. The investigation had revealed the full scope of Victor's misconduct, but Talia's role couldn't be dismissed as mere victimization. She'd participated willingly, benefited financially, and helped conceal the arrangement for months. Saturday morning, I woke to find Talia packing a suitcase. Where are you going? My sister's place in Denver. I need time to think, to figure out what comes next. For how long? I don't know. Maybe permanently. I watched her fold clothes with mechanical precision, each item placed carefully in the suitcase like she was dismantling our life one piece at a time. Talia, before you go, I need to ask you something. She paused, a sweater halfway to the suitcase. Did you love him? Victor? She was quiet for a long moment. I thought I did. Or maybe I loved what he represented. Success, advancement, someone who saw potential in me. And me? Did you ever love me? I still love you. That's what makes this so terrible. I destroyed something real for something that was never real at all. After she left, I sat in our empty apartment and considered what came next. The marriage was over, though we hadn't spoken the word divorce yet. The apartment lease was in both our names, but I could afford it alone. My job was stable, my reputation intact. But something had changed in me during this process. Discovering Talia's betrayal had revealed capabilities I didn't know I possessed. The ability to plan, to manipulate, to orchestrate someone's downfall with surgical precision. I thought about Victor, sitting in jail, his career destroyed and his marriage ended. I thought about Talia, driving toward Denver with nothing but a suitcase and the wreckage of her professional life. I thought about Helena, who'd turned her husband's betrayal into a business opportunity, and Mira, who'd parlayed her documentation into a promotion. Everyone had paid a price, but not everyone had paid the same price. My phone rang. Drew. How are you holding up? I'm fine. It's over. Is it? Because I heard something interesting today. Talia is trying to hire an attorney. She thinks she has grounds to claim harassment, that Victor manipulated her into the affair. Can she make that stick? Maybe. Depends on how good her lawyer is and whether she can convince people she was a victim rather than a willing participant. I considered this development. What do you think? I think she's desperate, and desperate people make unpredictable choices. After we hung up, I realized Drew was right. The game wasn't over. Talia was regrouping, looking for a way to rewrite the narrative and salvage something from the wreckage. But I'd learned something important over the past week. I was very good at this particular game, and I still had moves left to play. Talia's attorney was named Jennifer Walsh, and she specialized in workplace harassment cases. I learned this from the letter she sent me 3 weeks after Talia left for Denver, a formal notice that my wife was considering legal action against both Victor Rendell and the company that had enabled his misconduct. The letter also mentioned that I might be called as a witness to testify about the emotional distress Talia had suffered as a result of the harassment and how it had affected our marriage. I read the letter twice, then called Drew. She's trying to flip the script, I told him. Paint herself as the victim instead of the willing participant. Can she do that? Maybe. If she can prove Victor used his authority to coerce her, she might have a case. The hotels, the promotions, the financial benefits, they could all be reframed as evidence of systematic manipulation rather than consensual affair. What about the evidence you found? The photos, the receipts? That's the problem. Everything I discovered could support either narrative. Victor exploiting his position, or two adults conducting an affair that benefited both of them. Drew was quiet for a moment. So what do? We make sure the truth comes out. All of it. I spent the weekend researching Jennifer Walsh. She was good at her job, with a track record of successful harassment settlements. Her strategy was predictable: establish a pattern of predatory behavior, demonstrate the power imbalance, show how her client was manipulated into compromising situations. The strategy would work if Victor was the only defendant, but I had information that complicated Talia's victim narrative. Monday morning, I called Mira at her new consulting firm. Soren? I was wondering when I'd hear from you. I need to ask you about something. Talia's attorney contacted me. She's claiming harassment, saying Victor manipulated her into the affair. That's interesting, because I have emails suggesting otherwise. What kind of emails? Internal messages between Talia and other female employees. She was actually coaching them on how to get Victor's attention, how to position themselves for advancement. She wasn't a victim, she was recruiting. This was new information. You never mentioned that before. I was focused on stopping Victor, but if Talia is trying to rewrite history, I think people should know the whole truth. Would you be willing to share those emails? With the right person, yes. Someone who could ensure they reach the appropriate parties. We met that afternoon at a coffee shop downtown. Mira brought a thick folder containing printed emails, internal messages, and calendar screenshots that painted a very different picture of Talia's role in Victor's operation. She wasn't just sleeping with him, Mira explained. She was helping him identify targets: new hires, vulnerable employees, women who needed mentorship or career guidance. The emails were damaging. Messages where Talia discussed other employees' personal situations, their financial pressures, their career ambitions, strategy sessions where she and Victor planned approaches to different women. This makes her a co-conspirator, I said. Exactly. She wasn't manipulated. She was actively participating in the manipulation of others. Why didn't you include this in your original documentation? Because I was trying to protect the other victims. Some of them didn't know about Talia's role, and I didn't want to complicate their situations, but if she's going to claim victim status while throwing everyone else under the bus, that changes things. I studied the emails, understanding their implications. Talia's harassment claim would crumble if prosecutors could prove she was Victor's accomplice rather than his victim. Who else has seen these? Just me. I kept them separate from the other evidence because I wasn't sure how to use them responsibly. I think I know someone who would be very interested in this information. Helena Rendell agreed to meet me that evening at her new office. Her consulting firm occupied a sleek space in the financial district, with glass walls and modern furniture that suggested success and competence. You said you had additional information about Victor's activities? I handed her copies of Mira's emails. Your husband wasn't working alone. Talia was actively helping him identify and target other employees. Helena read through the documents with the focused attention of someone who'd spent months learning the details of her husband's betrayal. This is comprehensive, she said finally. Talia was essentially his recruiting coordinator. And now she's claiming to be his victim. I see, and you'd like me to ensure this information reaches the appropriate parties? I think the other real victims deserve to know the truth, and I think the legal system should have all the facts before making judgments about who deserves sympathy and who deserves consequences. Helena smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her since this began. You know, when you gave me that USB drive at the Christmas party, I thought you were just an angry husband looking for revenge. Maybe I was, initially. But this isn't about revenge anymore, is it? This is about justice. She was right. Somewhere in the process of uncovering Talia's betrayal, my motivation had evolved. I still felt the sting of personal betrayal, but I was more concerned about the other women who'd been manipulated, the employees who'd lost opportunities because they wouldn't play Victor and Talia's game. What will you do with the information? Share it with the prosecutors handling Victor's case. Provide copies to the attorneys representing the other harassment victims. Make sure Talia's lawyer understands that her client's victim narrative has some significant holes. And if Talia proceeds with her lawsuit, then she'll discover that playing victim is much harder when there's evidence you were actually the predator. Over the next 2 weeks, the new evidence worked its way through the legal system. Victor's charges were upgraded to include conspiracy and racketeering. 3 other women came forward with harassment claims, armed with evidence that Talia had helped Victor identify and approach them. Jennifer Walsh, Talia's attorney, requested a meeting with me to discuss my potential testimony. We met at her office on a Thursday afternoon. Mr. Merrick, I understand you've been in contact with other parties involved in this case. I've shared information with people who I thought should have it. Information that damages your wife's credibility. Information that reveals the truth about her actions. Walsh leaned back in her chair, studying me. You realize that by undermining Talia's harassment claim, you're also undermining any financial settlement she might receive? I realize that by revealing her actual role in Victor's operation, I'm ensuring that real victims get justice instead of watching someone who helped create other victims profit from their pain. That's a very principled position, also a very expensive one. If Talia can't recover damages from the harassment suit, she'll have no income and no career prospects. As her husband, you might be responsible for supporting her. We're getting divorced. Are you? Because I don't see any paperwork filed yet. She was right. Despite everything that had happened, neither Talia nor I had actually initiated divorce proceedings. We'd been living in a strange limbo, separated by geography and circumstances, but still legally married. That will be remedied soon. Mr. Merrick, I'm going to be direct with you. Your wife made mistakes, but she was also manipulated by someone in a position of authority. The evidence you've provided paints her in the worst possible light, but it doesn't negate the fact that Victor Rendell abused his power. You're right. Victor abused his power, and Talia helped him do it. Those aren't mutually exclusive facts. Walsh nodded slowly. I see. Well, I'll be sure to let Talia know where you stand. That evening, my phone rang. Talia. You're trying to destroy me, she said without preamble. I'm trying to ensure the truth comes out. The truth? The truth is that I made mistakes, but I was also manipulated and used. Victor promised me things, made me believe I was special, that I deserved advancement. And then you helped him make the same promises to other women. You coached him on their vulnerabilities, helped him identify targets. Silence on the other end of the line. How did you? Never mind. I know how you found out. Talia, you weren't just Victor's victim. You were his partner. Other women got hurt because you helped him hurt them. I was trying to survive in a corporate environment that rewards women for playing certain games. I thought if I played them better than anyone else, I could win. And now? Now I'm unemployed, unemployable, and married to someone who's actively working to ensure I stay that way. I'm working to ensure that justice happens. Justice? Or revenge? I considered her question. Maybe they're the same thing. After she hung up, I sat in my apartment and thought about the path that had brought me here. 6 months ago, I'd been a husband proud of his wife's success. Now I was orchestrating the complete destruction of her life and career. But I wasn't the one who'd made the choices that led here. I was just the one making sure those choices had consequences. My phone buzzed with a text from Drew. Victor took a plea deal. Cooperation in exchange for reduced sentence. He's giving up everyone, Talia, the other executives, the whole network. I smiled in the darkness. The game was almost over. The plea hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in February. Victor Rendell, once the confident division manager who'd treated handshakes like business transactions, now sat at the defendant's table looking like someone who'd aged a decade in 3 months. I attended as a witness, though I wasn't called to testify. From the gallery, I watched Victor formally admit to charges of fraud, conspiracy, and abuse of authority. In exchange for his cooperation, prosecutors agreed to recommend a reduced sentence, 3 years instead of 7. His cooperation meant providing detailed testimony about his accomplices, including Talia. Your Honor, Victor's attorney said, my client is prepared to provide comprehensive information about the systematic nature of this operation, including the involvement of other employees who facilitated these activities. The prosecutor stood. Mr. Rendell's cooperation has been essential in understanding the full scope of this conspiracy. His testimony will be crucial in prosecuting other defendants. Other defendants. Talia's name wasn't mentioned, but everyone in the courtroom understood the implication. After the hearing, I met Drew for lunch at a diner near the courthouse. How do you think she'll handle it? He asked. When the charges come down? Badly. Talia's always believed she could talk her way out of anything, convince people to see her side of the story. But Victor's testimony is going to be very specific, very detailed. Any word from her attorney? Jennifer Walsh withdrew from the case last week, cited irreconcilable differences with her client. I think she realized that defending Talia was going to be impossible once Victor started talking. Drew nodded. And the divorce? Filed yesterday. I'm asking for dissolution based on irreconcilable differences. Clean break, no alimony, split the assets we actually own. Think she'll contest it? With what lawyer and what money? Talia's broke, unemployable, and about to be indicted. She doesn't have a lot of leverage. That afternoon, I returned to my apartment to find an envelope slipped under my door. My name was written on it in Talia's handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Soren, I know what's coming. Victor's going to testify that I helped him, that I was a willing participant in everything that happened. He's going to make me sound like a monster who manipulated innocent women for personal gain. Maybe that's what I became. I don't know anymore. I just know that I loved you, and I destroyed that love for something that was never real. I'm sorry for what I did to you, to us, to the other women who got hurt. I'm sorry I'm not brave enough to face what's coming. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. Don't look for me. T. I read the letter twice, then called Drew. She's running, I told him. Where? Doesn't say, but she knows about Victor's cooperation, knows what's coming. The prosecutors won't like that. Flight risk looks like consciousness of guilt. At this point, I don't think Talia cares how it looks. Drew was quiet for a moment. How do you feel about it? Her running? I considered the question. Relieved, I think. I wanted consequences for what she did, but I didn't necessarily want to watch her go through a trial, possible prison time. This way she faces consequences, but I don't have to watch. She might come back eventually. Maybe, but not for a long time, and not as the same person. That evening, I called Helena Rendell to let her know about Talia's departure. Interesting timing, she said. The prosecutor was planning to offer her a plea deal similar to Victor's. Cooperation in exchange for reduced charges. She would have had to testify against him and against other executives who knew what was happening. The investigation expanded significantly once Victor started talking. Turns out this kind of behavior was more widespread than anyone realized. So Talia running actually helps the prosecution? In a way. It establishes that she knew her actions were criminal. Flight is evidence of consciousness of guilt, and Victor's testimony stands unchallenged if she's not there to dispute it. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen and thought about the strange journey that had brought me here. 6 months ago, I'd discovered my wife's affair through hotel receipts and photographs. Tonight, I was discussing her flight from prosecution with the wife of her co-conspirator. The apartment felt different now, quieter but also cleaner somehow. The weight of deception and betrayal had lifted, replaced by the lighter burden of solitude. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Thank you. M. Mira. I'd heard she was testifying as a key witness in the expanded investigation, helping prosecutors understand the full scope of the conspiracy. Her documentation had become the foundation for multiple indictments, I typed back. Thank you too. Justice served. More than that, other companies are reviewing their policies, implementing new oversight procedures, real change happening. She was right. The scandal had spread beyond Victor's company, triggering industry-wide reviews of promotion practices and executive conduct. What had started as my personal quest for revenge had become a catalyst for systemic change. Over the following weeks, the remaining pieces fell into place. Victor was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison. 2 other executives pleaded guilty to related charges. The company implemented new governance procedures and paid settlements to 7 women who'd been harassed or manipulated. Helena's consulting firm landed 3 major contracts to help other corporations review their workplace policies. Mira was promoted to partner, specializing in whistleblower protection and internal investigation procedures. The divorce was finalized in April. Talia never responded to the papers, never contested the terms. Her absence made the process simple: division of assets, dissolution of joint accounts, legal severance of a marriage that had ended months before the paperwork caught up. I kept the apartment, sold some furniture, bought new dishes that didn't carry memories of shared meals and shared lies. The space gradually transformed from our place to my place, filled with things I'd chosen rather than things we'd compromised on. In May, I received a call from a prosecutor in Denver. Mr. Merrick, this is Assistant District Attorney Patricia Chen. I'm calling about your wife, Talia Merrick. My chest tightened. What about her? She was arrested yesterday on the federal charges. Fraud, conspiracy, racketeering. She's being extradited to face trial. I see. Why are you calling me? She listed you as her emergency contact. She's asking if you'll post bail. I was quiet for a long moment, processing the request. After everything that had happened, after fleeing to avoid prosecution, Talia was asking me to help her get out of jail. Mr. Merrick, are you there? I'm here, and the answer is no. I won't be posting bail. I understand. Should I remove you as her emergency contact? Yes. Remove me from everything. We're divorced. I'm not responsible for her choices anymore. After hanging up, I sat in my kitchen and felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Complete closure. Talia's arrest meant she would finally face consequences for her actions. Her request for bail money meant she still didn't understand that our relationship was over, that I was no longer the person who would rescue her from the results of her decisions. That evening, I called Drew to let him know about Talia's arrest. How do you feel about it? He asked. Satisfied, I think. She ran, got caught, and now she has to face what she did. The system worked. And you? What's next for you? I looked around my apartment at the life I'd built from the wreckage of my marriage. I'm thinking about moving. Maybe Portland. Start fresh somewhere new. Running away? No. Running towards something better. 6 months later, I was teaching cybersecurity at a community college in Portland, dating a librarian named Sarah, who found my attention to detail charming rather than obsessive. The scandal that had consumed my life felt like something that had happened to someone else. I never heard from Talia again. According to news reports, she was convicted on multiple charges and sentenced to 18 months in federal prison. Victor served his full 3 years. Helena's consulting firm went national, specializing in corporate governance reform. Sometimes, lying in bed next to Sarah, I thought about the chain of events that had started with a mislabeled folder on a laptop. How a search for tax documents had revealed hotel receipts that destroyed 2 careers, ended 2 marriages, and changed multiple lives. I'd set out looking for revenge and found something more valuable: justice. Not just for me, but for all the women who'd been manipulated, all the employees who'd lost opportunities to corruption, all the people who deserved better from the institutions that employed them. The promotion game, as it turned out, had rules after all. And when people broke those rules, sometimes there were consequences. Sometimes the system worked exactly as it was supposed to.